Welcome to Cocktails and Capital, the working on your business podcast that feels more like grabbing a drink with your best friend. I'm your host, Sarah Tatum, that best friend. I'm the owner of Tatum Accounting, where we invite our clients to take a vacation from their bookkeeping. In this podcast, I'm going to give it to you straight. Talking points and vague tips, we don't do that here. There's a bunch of noise out there in the entrepreneur community, especially when it relates to finances. And when you're trying to run your business, you just don't have time for that. And I know that you would rather be doing literally anything other than recording expenses and logging into your accounting software. So I'm bringing you practical advice without any of the fluff, just like your best friend would. So turn the volume up, grab your gin and tonic, and let's dive into this week's theme.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cocktails and Capital. This is episode 43. Today, we have a very special guest, the lovely Erin Taylor with Strong Not Sorry. Erin, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you today. Erin is actually my only client who uses the profit first method and knows so much more about it than I do. So today, I'm going to kind of give her the floor to talk and educate our wonderful listeners about profit first. But a little bit of background. Erin is a online personal trainer turned gym owner, which is extremely exciting and been open for about roughly 6 months now.
Yes,
Um,
since May. So, yep,
yeah,
whatever it is.
coming up on a year. So it's super exciting. It's done very well. And I'm going to let you talk about that journey and how you came to be here.
Well, that was very generous to say I know more about processes. I don't know how accurate that statement was,
Really
but
accurate.
I have been with you for accounting and tax things since the very beginning. So I
Mhm.
guess we'll start with a very short synopsis of how we ended up here. But I had a brick and mortar gym that we started in late 2018, early 2019, ran that for a year. While it was successful, it was very, very strenuous on me work hour wise. I was not online yet. So it was
Mhm.
solely in person training. I was the only person training. It was not a big enough space to host members. So it was just personal training clients. So long story short, was not sustainable. Decided to pack that up when COVID hit. It was an easy
Mhm.
way to get a lease and went fully online. Did the online gig up until last May of
Mhm.
2023. I was doing online. And that's kind of when me and you started working together. And it was super profitable since I didn't have hardly any overhead, but I
Yeah.
missed the in-person training aspect terribly. So saved and saved and saved and, kept my eye out on spots here locally for the right retail space to open up. We found one and I made the leap. So this time around, it's been so much different,
Mhm.
having capacity to bring on memberships and, you know, not solely rely on if I'm not there working, training someone, I'm not making money. So adding those couple of streams of revenue in and then also bringing on some contract trainers. So a few
Yep.
1099 folks onto the team. That's just been all the difference and, not running myself into the ground as a business owner.
Yes. The biggest, most important part of owning a business is not running yourself into the ground.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Which we talk about all the time on here, those boundaries. So you already had a P&L system essentially before we started talking. And Erin's been in the unique situation where we've been able to do more of a quarterly review rather than us do her full books monthly because she's honestly a really good DIY bookkeeper. Um,
Way of saying that I am anal about everything.
we didn't have to divulge that part, but it's always been consistent. I feel like you've always kept the habit of logging in at least like if not weekly, every other week and keeping track of things. And that a lot of that I think has to do with the profit first method and the, 2 times a month you're going in to do all of your transfers, which we'll get into in a little bit. But you've been very disciplined about keeping track of your bookkeeping as a business owner, which is extremely important. And how has that helped you, especially with opening the gym,
Yeah.
make these big business decisions? Because that's a huge business decision. So you have your accurate, timely bookkeeping. I imagine that is super helpful for those decisions.
Yeah. And, I know we're going to get into the profit first system a little bit later, but like you said, getting my eyeballs like on, they
Mhm.
call it like part of like your business and like the heartbeat of your company. And just being able to see my different accounts and how much we have in operating expenses to make purchases and how much I have in owner's compensation to pay myself and, making those transfers month to month. But I would say like when I came to you, my spreadsheet, I remember you telling me like, yeah, we could probably keep this for like a little bit longer, but we might
Yeah.
want to go bucks. So if you are out there listening to this and you were like me, and you're like, quote me on your old systems of like spreadsheets and Google documents, like let it go, pay the $21 a month to QuickBooks. Like it is worth it. If Intuit is listening, please sponsor me. But I would say, I would say that that was a huge game changer for me, being able to categorize with QuickBooks and
Uh-huh.
have you as the accountant on so that if I have a question, I can pop into the portal and be like, look, I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
for a specific example, we bought equipment and then I sold it a few months later. And I was like, I have no idea how to, because we paid off the loan, but then we also got the money back. And you were like, I'll go in and take care of it. So that's super helpful in our working relationship to have you there for those moments. And I'm super grateful that you were able to like make that like kind of a la carte package and do the quarterly calls. But yeah, the profit first system, getting your eyeballs on, where your money is and what it's doing and how much you have and what you need to change has been crucial in making business decisions.
So this is going to turn into like, profit first sponsor us, actually. What attracted you to that system? How did you hear about it? What was the first encounter?
Yeah, it's so funny. Actually, so when I was fully online, I was looking at buying a house and I knew that having a W-2 would be more attractive to mortgage officers. So I picked up a job as an office manager and I was doing their books as well. I was like the
Mm.
bookkeeper and the office manager and the marketing. Anyway, but they
Awesome.
actually used profit first. So when I would go in and do their books, I was like, what are these transfers I'm seeing like, twice a month to all of these different accounts? Why are we making so many transfers? And the business owner explained it to me, and I immediately went and I bought the book. Mike, not sure his last name. It's like, it literally
Ah,
sounds like Mike Wazowski from
it
Monsters
does.
Inc.
It
If you guys,
does.
that's
We'll
what it's
just
like.
put a link in the show notes and you can find it.
So I read that book in one night and I was like, this is about to change my entire business. I already had two separate accounts, like a business account and a personal account that I was paying
Mhm.
myself out of, but it just took it like a step further. So, yep, I worked
Yeah.
that job, saw how well it worked for his company and his business. And they were doing, millions of dollars a year in gross revenue. So I was like, if it works for their company, it's definitely going to
Yeah.
work for my company.
Yeah. It is definitely a learning curve. So I did not finish the book in one night. I was not as excited about it. It is a weird process. Like if you're used to doing something for so long, obviously, like it's going to take time to figure out how you're trying to do that. And for profit first, it does require like a complete mindset shift too, where we're not just paying out ourselves out of what we have left over, but it's becoming a priority, right, at the beginning. So, which is why it's profit first. So anyway, the basis of it is that you have five separate accounts, right? You have your income, your operating expenses, profit, taxes. I think I'm forgetting one, but I
So
think
it's
it's either
income,
yeah,
operating expense, owner's comp, profit,
um,
and tax.
owner's comp. Yep. So they're separating owner's comp and profit, which is again like a huge like what is happening? And then you're going in and you're doing your transfers twice a month. So that you have those accounts down. Like you use every single one of them. So tell me how does that work? How do we do
Yeah.
this?
Um, If the owner of Profit First listens to this, I'm so sorry. I do not follow your method to a perfect T, like he's ever going to listen to this. Um,
Well, thanks. No.
when he will, he will, Sarah.
But
But
that's real quick, like that's the highlight of it though. Like it can
yeah,
be customized. There is a spot in the very beginning of the book where he talks about how you have the five, but you can have up to like 25. You can have 30. Like you can make a profit first system that works for you and do whatever you want. But anyway, go on.
yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing that I took away from the book was the health of your business in the beginning. They say here's where like your target like allocation percentages should be. They call them TAPs.
Mhm.
So it's basically saying if you have a healthy or profitable business, like a certain percentage should be going to your expenses, a certain percentage you should be paying yourself. Obviously, a certain percentage should be going to taxes. And then they always want your business to be profitable. So the best thing that I've taken away from using profit first is obviously pay yourself first, but then the
Mhm.
profit that you set aside, you cannot put it back in the business.
Yep.
So it's been really fun for me. And, right now my profit is only 1%. So I'll be fully transparent that it used to be a lot higher when we didn't have the gem, but now it's small. But I still, like today, I made my little allocations and it was a little measly transfer to profit, but it grows. And then, every
Mhm.
quarter, you got profit out or half the profit out, whatever you choose, and you spend it on something not in your business. So I think it really made a mindset shift for me from I'm a slave to my business, I am not making money, I'm running myself into the ground, to when I really tried to dial in these percentages and cut back expenses and make sure that I was making enough money to support what I wanted to pay myself. It turned into my income is consistent because I
Mhm.
set a amount that I want to pay myself. I'm taking quarterly distributions out of a profit account. It feels like I have a legitimate business that's making profit. My taxes are there when I go to pay my taxes. I'm not stressed about it. And when I go to pay my credit card every month on expenses, I literally just press pay out of the operating expense account. When my rent is due, I pay my rent. I'm never stressed about the money not being there. And if it does get tight one month, you can adjust your percentages. And then that's assigned to you if you have to adjust your percentages, say up your operating expense and take down your owner's comp. You're like, okay, I need to increase my income here. So it's
Yep.
just so easy to get a gauge on how you're doing business wise.
Yeah, I kind of equate it to the statement of cash flow looks at that exact same thing. So we're looking at operating financing, investing financing, finance financing. And I think that for a lot of business owners, like that cash flow statement is a little bit scary. We talk about it in our monthly report and our quarterly review and everything, but it's an intimidating thing to look at when you don't have like an accounting brain. And so what Profit First I think does really well is it takes your income statement essentially and uses bank accounts to kind of have a cash flow statement. So that way
Right.
you're looking at it. A lot of business owners are looking at their bank every day. They're not looking at their reports every day.
Right.
So I think it really makes it a little more accessible to try to understand where your money is going, just like you said. And I remember in the beginning of the book, he says that if you have to increase your operating expenses, that you just have to make cuts. And you got to
Yep.
figure out what's important, and
Yep.
either your income gets cut or your expenses get cut. And that for me was like, yeah, it's completely true, but at the same time, like, I see a new subscription service, and I'm like, "Ooh, that looks fun. We should try that with everybody." But no, we have to keep it in check.
Yep.
Now
I got
yeah.
really sad at the beginning when we first opened the gym. I had to increase, I used to have my operating expense all the way down to 20%. It was at 30% for a while, brought it down to 20. Now it's at 54% right now. And today was the first time that I made a transfer into the operating expense account for more than what my rent was for just half the month. And I was like,
Mm,
am I doing it? Am I actually going to be able to decrease this operating expense percentage? But again, it's just another checks and balances of being able to log in and say, like, okay, I just transferred this. It's going up every single month. So when you make your transfers, like you can see that trend of how you're doing income wise.
right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It it's been interesting to watch you use it because, like I said, you're the only one that I have who uses it so strictly. Like I do like a modified version for our taxes and for my, withdrawals and everything. But you're so good about it and you're so like strict with yourself about it and disciplined. And I think that's a huge part of sticking to it. And I'll be honest with you, it's why I don't stick to the like real way that you're supposed to do it. Because for me, I tried it and I was like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah,
And
I
it's a
love
lot.
Day. I love on
Yeah.
the 10th and the 25th sitting down, and I modify it a little bit too because I don't pay our 1099 contractors out of my operating expense. I actually take that off the top out of income. So the first thing I do is I go to my bank account and I see what the posted balance is. I write it down, and then I go to my 1099 spreadsheet of what I owe our contract workers, and I like subtract all that out and I go ahead and pay them. And then
Yeah.
that amount in my income account is like what I allocate out to my operating expenses and my owner's compensation and stuff like that. And the only other thing I don't do is keep my tax account at a completely separate bank. I just know that I have the self control to not
Yeah.
pull out of its account.
Yeah. Well, and that another point too, like you have always been, and so another thing that we do consistently, especially during our quarterly calls, is make sure that you're paying enough in taxes and having this profit and loss statement that I can access through QuickBooks rather than the one that we had on the spreadsheet. It makes it so much easier, especially if we can't get on a quick call to go over those things. I can
Yeah.
just look at it and tell you what you have. And we have that relationship over doing your taxes for the last couple of years as well, that I know what you have going on. And
Yeah.
I know that the gym is the only thing that you personally have going on, whether anybody else has anything else going on. But we talk so often and we're in such like transparent communication that we can pretty much get your tax payment down within like a couple $100.
Yeah,
So,
it's really nice to not have to wonder, what I'm gonna owe. And I'll say that to anybody, I was very hesitant again, when it comes to money out, reading Profit First, if you've read that section about expenses, they are like get it down to almost nothing. Like you want to get your expenses down to nothing. So I was hesitant to sign up like for a
yeah,
monthly recurring or a big charge. But I am telling you, it is the best investment I have ever made in my business to not have to worry about my taxes. Not only that, but just like big purchases and
yeah,
QuickBooks and knowing that like I've just got another set of eyeballs that knows way more than I do about like how to categorize things and how to depreciate things. And having the same person do both is really helpful too. I know some people
yeah,
have their and then like a different person to prepare their taxes. But like you said, me and you talk all throughout the year and you're up
yeah,
to date on
yeah,
everything, whether it's
yeah,
me selling a house or buying a
yeah,
gym or
yeah.
selling a so it's really nice.
And it makes it so much faster. Like, what did you give me your stuff the other day? And like we're ready to go. So
Right.
the returns quick. Erin has always gotten her stuff by like the end of January. It's like the first return that gets done every year.
I'm I'm terrified of the IRS. In my head, the IRS is like on my coattails every day of my life. So like if somebody pays me on Venmo, even if it's like, $20, I'm like transferring that to my business account. When I used to have my spreadsheet, I would have like a line item for Venmo, PayPal, Etsy. Like I was terrified of missing even like a dollar for the IRS, but
I know,
hasn't
I know. I just discovered the IRS Instagram account literally last night. And the second post on their grid is like the Mean Girls burn book cover. And I was like,
yeah.
this is such a perfect representation. Like you are the, a burn book full of taxpayers. I hope they're
So
not listening, but they have our pictures in the book already. But you've done really, really well. And I appreciate, the feedback on how much we've helped because that's the whole point. We just want to make sure that you're comfortable with your numbers and that everything is going smoothly. We don't have fires to put out anytime. And I think anytime that you've had like a mild burn, we've been able to, quash it pretty quickly. So,
absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
it's good.
It's nice to be able to just like log in on our quarterly call and be like, "Am I okay?" And good. Like, "You're good." Like, and I'm like, "All right, good."
Yes. Yeah. And to like circle back real quick on your 1099 point coming out of your
Mhm.
income rather than your operating expenses, not to like deep dive into your compensation structure or anything, but there's a
Well, we can.
whole, okay. They are essentially bringing on their own people and just running it underneath your business. And so that income, whether, there's a percentage that stays with you, but it's not your income really. Like it's not your client that you found. And so that makes complete and perfect sense. And if anybody's trying to figure out the way to do something like that and to utilize the system, I think that's a perfect way to do it. It's not really an operating expense. Your percentage of the income is just your cut. It's just income for you. But if you moved all of that over, that's a lot. It's not, yeah,
Yeah, I agree. The biggest thing that, like, I wanted to do with the Profit First with using the 1099s was create less steps. So it's just easier to
Mhm.
take it off the top, and then whatever's left over is the profit that I'm making off of having the 1099, like, coaches. So it made the
Yeah.
most sense.
And I didn't even help you develop that. You had that all on your own.
And we're like, you have brought, I think, like 2 or 3 things to me, and it always takes me like 3 or 4 months to like onboard it. But then I always do, and I always love it. So it's like you just plant the seed and leave it, and then like it grows, and then
Yeah.
in like 3 or 4
Sits
months.
in the back of your mind forever. You're like, I think she said something about that. Yeah. But no, it's been really cool to watch you grow and watch the gym grow and just the whole shift in what you've been doing since we started talking. I think we first started talking in 2021 when I
Yeah.
did a webinar, and that is like millions of years ago now. We've known each other for like 3 years, which is
Mhm.
wild. And it's so fun to watch you.
This is the
Appreciate it.
third year you'll do the tax return, so that makes sense that
Yeah.
it would
Yeah.
in 21, yeah. And we started, I think I only had 1 1099, and now I think you'll do
Yeah.
1090 for 3 this year, 4 next year.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
that's exciting.
Ah, so much growth.
I
And
know.
speaking of growth, if we talk about your Instagram and your TikTok, because TikTok is how I found you. Is what-
That's so funny, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you went viral way, way back. It's how I
Yeah.
actually found. So we have a mutual contact, our business coach, is how I found Alicia and started working with her because you went viral. I followed you on Instagram. I actually reached out for coaching and you weren't taking anybody at the time. And then you tagged Alicia in something. And I was like, I want a business coach. Let me go do that. And I've been with her ever since then too. But yeah, the whole reason I found you was actually because I wanted to work with you
Yeah,
and
I
you
hired
went
you.
viral on TikTok. Yeah.
And so funny. Yeah, 'cause people tell me that all the time that TikTok is like the reason they found me. And I want to get back into it so bad, but it is just like, it is a wild, wild west out there. And I'm
Yes.
like, I'm not ready to get back to it. That's a whole nother ball
That
game.
was so long ago, but your Instagram still is really, really good. You have a lot of connection on there. And I think it's important for anybody who's like even remotely thinking about starting a business of how important, unfortunately, social media is to doing that. And like I had a lot of Instagram presence over the last 2 years. And then like over the last 6 months, it's been too much. Like I barely even check Instagram anymore. It's just so overwhelming. I think there's a shift into that as well, that people are overwhelmed and we want to take a step back, but it's still like you get sucked back in and everybody's like, Sarah, I need to see you on Instagram again. I'm like, I can't,
Yeah.
you are not going to see my face anymore, but
Yeah.
you have it, I think pretty well down. Is there a strategy that you have? Do you map out all your content? Do you just stand in your gym and film a reel and go, bye?
Honestly, if you go to my page, in the past, I've done content where I tried to post every single day, once a week, twice a week, once a month. But my biggest piece of advice for people, and this was the truth when I went viral on TikTok as well, is my video went viral of me sliding the bagel, right? And the 10 or 20 videos before that, there was no engagement, like no views, no nothing. But when people saw that first video that went viral, they went to my page and they saw all the other videos that had content there and they
Mhm.
followed. I got like 80,000 followers and they
That
wouldn't
is
have done
ridiculous.
no, like they wouldn't have followed if those other posts wouldn't have been there. So my point in saying that
Yeah.
is even if you feel like you're wasting your time making content that's like not getting a ton of eyeballs on it, my piece of advice is spend time creating like quality content and don't worry so much about churning out content after content after content after content because you might get lucky with one post and then all the other posts that are there, people will look through your stuff. So,
Yep.
yes, post consistently in the beginning. That's unfortunately to gain a following, you have to post consistently. But then once you get that consistent following, I've been able to take my foot off the gas because I'm not as concerned with growing my following as I am with connecting with my existing
Yeah.
following. And I feel like stories are a really good way to do that. So, I try and
Yeah.
talk about what I do on my stories. I try and share client experiences on my stories and maybe post 3, 4 times a month, maybe. I haven't done that in a while, but I find that you can do a little bit less educational content once people know that you're established. And you always, those posts live forever. So
Yeah.
reshare them, repurpose them. So spend time in the beginning creating really quality content and be consistent. And then once you like have that initial, however many posts it is, repurpose it, recreate it, reshare it, use your stories to engage and go from there. That's Instagram and I are in a fight right now. So that's well, just say about that.
But she's still doing so good. But that was really good advice, actually. I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with that. So I like to end all of these with if you were talking to anybody who is just about to start or is thinking about starting, has started, and they're in like their first couple of months, what piece of advice would you give to that person about opening a business?
My biggest piece of advice is you probably have enough information at this point. Most of us, 99% of us will have enough information. If you're in the first few months, it's time to act. Like, just, you're the CEO. Like, no one is going to come and fuss at you if you mess up. You might make some mistakes that sting and hurt a little bit, but most everything is fixable and repairable. So don't get in analysis paralysis. Read the
Yes.
expert, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, implement it into your business and give it a try. If it doesn't work, pivot and adjust. So don't get too stuck and bogged down in all of the information out there and comparing yourself to what other people are doing. Piece things together as you hear it and come up with what works for you and go from there.
And it's such good advice. Not everything is going to be perfect from the beginning. We've all made mistakes. Erin and I have both made a bunch of mistakes in doing this. And I think over 4 years, we're probably uniquely qualified to say that we're still here. And it's hard. It sucks sometimes. And it's really, really scary. And things will happen that you're not even planning on. We both know that very well. But you just push through and you keep going and it's going to be fine.
Yep.
That was very good advice.
Awesome. Good.
Thank you so much for being on here today and teaching everybody about Profit First. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode today. If you did, please take a screenshot and tag us in on Instagram. Erin's Instagram will be in the show notes, and you already know where to find me. Email me if you have any questions or DM me, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and follow Tatum Accounting on Instagram. You can also do us a huge favor by leaving a review. It's the best way to support us. Let's catch up next week, same time, same place.